Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Or I'm sorry, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. For the past 4 months, my fellow presenters and I were a part of the 2021 California Library Association Developing Leaders in California Libraries Leadership Challenge Program. I know, really, really long name, right? The presentation we will give today is the final project and product of the Leadership Challenge. We have also given this presentation to the California State Library. On behalf of this group, I would like to thank you for having us. Our presentation is entitled Learning from the Pandemic, Mechanics of Post-Pandemic Programming. It is my honor to introduce the presenters. Ashleigh Torres, Youth Services Librarian, El Dorado County Library. Brittany Garcia, Adult and Teen Services Supervisor, Rancho Cucamonga Public Library. Bryan Duran, Materials Manager, San Francisco Public Library. Sasha Kinney, Adult Services and Reference Librarian, Sacramento Public Library. And myself, Shamika J. Simpson, Collection Development and Outreach Librarian from Long Beach City College Library.
So today I want to talk about hope. Hope is hard, especially given our circumstances. We are in the middle of a global traumatic event. Let that sink in. You are living through history right now, this very second. In years to come, people will ask, where were you during COVID? What were you doing? Did you lose anyone? Did you get sick? It is a common shared experience imbued with various levels of trauma. Trauma of the unknown, trauma of the disease and death, trauma of milestones uncelebrated and forgotten, trauma of the sudden pause of our normal way of living. The event has affected so many avenues of life, from jobs to school to mental and physical health. It has even exacerbated life for those in our world who were already at a disadvantage, suffering from inequity, and those in marginalized communities. Those in our communities who rely on their library and its services for their basic needs and livelihood. They have been devastatedly affected by this global event. We all know this. We have seen the effects of COVID-19, but throughout the pandemic, libraries have found ways to be a light in the dark and provide hope through services to their community, from curbside services to virtual programming to maybe even free lunches and things like that. Libraries are providing hope. We're providing hope. Let that wash over you. Hope for betterment, for normal, hope for survival, just hope for a new tomorrow. All this time, libraries have been beacons of hope, attempting to keep the darkness at bay, but they can't do everything. Right now, there isn't enough staffing or funding or time to support our communities, especially those in need. For some library staff and even patrons, it can feel that hope is slipping away. We're here to show you that the fight and grit of libraries keeping that fire of hope alive is still there. But the support and fuel for that fire is direly needed.
With hope in mind, we knew we wanted to select an urgent and time-sensitive topic, which is why we chose post-COVID-19 library service models. Programming is something all library types share in common, and it is also a library service that was dramatically changed due to COVID-19. With our project, we wanted to create a toolkit that can be a guide for those who want to tackle post-COVID-19 programming. Within our toolkit, we focused on a trauma-informed approach because we were looking at programming holistically from both an end user and library staff perspective. COVID has been a traumatic event and has brought out mental health issues from those who have previously experienced mental health issues and those who have not. We also want our toolkit to reflect being equity focused. While being equity focused isn't cheap, it is a cost to libraries to provide PPE, table dividers, etc. It is necessary and will support the communities as a whole. Everyone should know that they are seen, and everyone should feel safe and comfortable in their library.
So in February and March, our team conducted a survey to understand the state of programming in California libraries. Well, I'm not going to review each question and response. The results of the survey inform the information that we brought to the toolkit. So the first slide here, you'll see that we received 66 responses from libraries. Some of these responses might be duplicates from the same library system, just to let you know. There were 57 respondents from public libraries, 6 from school libraries, and 3 from academic libraries. And so as you can see on the chart, the majority of libraries offered some sort of virtual programs. Slide 2 here, we asked about what their library program success was. So what they thought was the best that they were able to offer in this last year. And by far the biggest success has been virtual programming. So close to 40% of respondents said virtual programming was a success. Some of the examples given were the Book to Action program from the State Library, author visits, talks by city experts, such as the city historian. And then I also want to note that adult and teen virtual programs drew more attendees than children's virtual programs. So if you want to offer a program, it's best to offer it to teens and above. And then also libraries noted that by archiving asynchronous videos, so pre-recorded videos, patrons can access the program and then are able to attend on their own time. So that drew even more of an audience. Also, you'll see the hybrid program. So this is where patrons can pick up material to do at home or in with a live or pre-recorded video. And nearly, so those were also very popular, and nearly 18% of our respondents said grab and go programs were one of the most successful programs. Some of those examples included snow globe making and craft kits and STEAM kits. And then lastly, if in-person programs were offered, so if they were noticed as a successful program, they were passive and socially distanced. So examples of those included things like story walks, a poetry walk for National Poetry Month, and drive-through events. We also asked about post-COVID challenges. So these are challenges that respondents predicted respondents thought that after or as we emerge from the pandemic might be an issue for their library system. So roughly 33% said staffing and 31% said funding. Other responses included building partnerships and safely gathering. We address funding issues, building partnerships, and safely gathering in our toolkit because of this. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you the resources needed. So what resources would you need to in order to carry on successful programming after COVID? Top requests included funding resources, additional staff, an idea sharing platform, technology support, and training for staff. So for idea sharing, we have created a Slack account. This is a wonderful opportunity for libraries to connect, recharge, and learn something new. And we will share that at the end of the presentation.
You have heard our why, and you saw our survey results that Sasha presented. Now hear how we created a post-COVID programming toolkit. Library programming is an evergreen topic. Our toolkit, website, and Slack channel will be a living document to provide resources and support for library programs. The toolkit is divided into the following sections: virtual, hybrid, in-person, partnerships, survey, and resources. Within each of the programming sections, we include planning, policy, barriers, and notable programs. In the aftermath of COVID-19, we have to be cognizant of the apprehension people may feel surrounding attending in-person events. I know many of us were hoping to return to our pre-COVID-19 lives. I know I was hoping so as well, but things have changed. The future is unknown, and we don't know with 100% efficacy the certainty of the vaccine, long-term effects, or another COVID-19 outbreak. With that said, virtual programming is here to stay. Asynchronous, on-demand, or synchronous live programs break regional barriers, allow library users to participate from anywhere around the world, and are inclusive to all. Libraries stepped up to continue to serve library users via virtual programming throughout the stay-at-home order. Being aware of the digital divide, libraries understand that not all users have access to virtual programs. Thus, many libraries began lending Wi-Fi hotspots and Chromebooks or tablets. There are quite a few benefits of virtual programming. I will name just a few. Live programs provide human interaction without human contact. Live programs that utilize Zoom can also be live streamed via Facebook and YouTube. On-demand programs can be made accessible via library websites for library users to view at any time. Accessibility, closed captioning, makes videos accessible for deaf and hard of hearing patrons. Reading captions also benefits early readers, struggling readers, and English language learners. Virtual programs can be tailored for our neurodivergent patrons by providing an online environment that is free from loud sounds, crowds, and other overwhelming stimuli.
The idea of hybrid programming is a good segue from how Shamika just explained virtual programming. This year we saw, the barriers and challenges when it comes to hybrid programming. Some of the planning that goes into hybrid programming is, again, security settings, making the digital platforms both accessible but also safe to be accessed. And also, making our physical space accessible and ensuring that that space, especially during, this past year, adhered to guidelines set forth by the CDC. Since hybrid programming inherently shares aspects of both virtual programming, like we just heard about, as well as in-person programming that we'll hear about next, the challenges are similar to these two models, but also unique to hybrid programming. Two barriers that we found in our survey was scarcity in resources and also scarcity in space. What we try to do in our toolkit was, show how libraries can confront this, but also highlight some of the innovative ways that libraries were already dealing with these issues. For space, we saw libraries utilizing library space that we don't normally think about as library space, parking lots. Undoubtedly the most popular, space in a library, the curbside, during the pandemic. So that really helped with space, but also, partnerships and, reaching out to the community, having programs that were essentially embracing, our community and what's around us. So, hiking, exploring bike lanes and so forth. And what we really saw are the benefits to hybrid programming in both offering, and engaging our communities, but also being accessible to, a broader community and folks that we don't normally serve in our daily, line of service.
Which brings us to in-person. So we understand the mechanics of in-person programming in a post-pandemic setting or even a transitional setting is probably one of the most anticipated portions of the toolkit that were created and we'll be sharing at the end of this presentation. The in-person section does follow the structure of the toolkit to address planning policy barriers, notable programs, so you get program examples within the toolkit, and all recommendations are based on research, data, and best practices. We found a big part of the concern and anxiety rooted within library communities, as we saw with the surveys, were when will it be normal again for everyone? When can we start serving our community to our fullest capacity? And what does the road even look like to get there? Unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball to say your organization should do X and your organization should do Y, but we have some basic guidelines and passive consideration to get you onto that road to safe and sustainable in-person programming through our toolkit. The in-person programming section covers recommended policies that should be created, reviewed, or maybe even updated, including your code of conduct, your policy on masks, especially with mask mandates going away for vaccinated individuals. So considering what mask policy might look like during just a flu season. Programming policies or guidelines. This may assist in addressing the why behind certain programs returning over other programs. In terms of barriers, we wanted to allocate a space in the toolkit for logistical and big picture concerns such as safety and regulation, space capacity, staffing resources, budget, digital technology, and literacy access. In addition, we provide methodologies for assessing community need and interest, as pre-COVID versus post-COVID needs and interests are bound to vary greatly amongst communities and demographics. Methods include viewing the census, the COVID House Pulse Survey, circulation trends, or even internally generated surveys. Lastly, there is a small list of program recommendations within the toolkit, but as this is the in-person portion, many libraries have done successful in-person programming before COVID, so this section is a bit small. The importance of the in-person section is knowing your organization's bandwidth of resources and being able to offer sustainable programming in person that's safe for everyone, including staff. And we do include a nice section about staff and patron well-being in terms of practicing trauma-informed services internally as well as externally, as the trauma from this global event will affect people differently in highly popular and populated areas if you have big programming. The most important part is actually meeting a community need and not a need you think is needed in this post-pandemic world.
And that brings us back to this idea of hope. Brittany so elegantly just put it, like hope is hard. And I think that's what we've all experienced this past year in this profession. However, we are positioned in an area where we wanted to really give hope and empower libraries as we look forward and as we move together as a collective, institution, and our patrons and the folks that we serve are looking to us oftentimes to help be that, the structure in our communities. So our hope was to just essentially reach out and see what people were going through and reflect that in our project. And all the while, keeping that trauma-informed approach and not having a prescriptive project where, it was just looking at, this is what academic libraries should do. This is what public libraries should do. But this is, ideas that we can all use in some way, to serve our communities. And that kind of leads us to our ask, what we asked the state library.
The data we gathered within our survey and in collaboration with our toolkit, we asked the California State Library to fund 50 or more mini grants of up to $5,000 related to post-pandemic programming, with 20 or more of them being specifically designated for non-public libraries, including but not limited to academic, legal, school, special, military, and tribal libraries. We also asked the California State Library to sponsor the post-pandemic programming Slack channel. This channel will be used to share post-pandemic programming ideas, thoughts, questions, and support. Our group has committed to being the admins of the Slack channel for the next year. We will be updating the Slack channel with more information as we go, including information from the state library and if they decide to fund our grant that we are asking for. And finally, we would also like to ask the California State Library to sponsor or provide technology support for library staff. So we explained that there are varying degrees to what this could possibly look like, but it's our hope that the state library provides a support page for library staff to gain knowledge and confidence in using technology needed for the new post-pandemic programming world. So some examples of this would include Zoom tech help, how to close caption videos, and then tech help for hybrid programming.
So in the chat, you're going to see the links to the Slack program ideas exchange, the toolkit website, and the toolkit PDF. Please note that the toolkit PDF is the same document as the website, but does not have extensive links and program examples like the website does. We made a PDF version for ease of use and accessibility, so it can be downloaded and shared at meetings or printed to be read and reviewed. The other thing I want to mention is that all the things that Ashleigh just went over, the California State Library hopefully approves that grants, and those are available for California libraries. Those would be available if it comes through. But everything else, everyone can join. So everyone can join the Slack channel, and everyone can use those tech resources, hopefully, that the state library will share. Unless I suppose it costs money, then that might be a barrier there. So as you see on the screen here, we were helped by a lot of people. So we just wanted to give a brief shout out to those individuals who supported this project. And now we'll take questions from the Q&A. I see that there's a few coming in. And then it looks like we have 9 minutes. And then if we don't have time to answer all the questions, or if you think of something later, you are welcome to email us, any of us.
So in the chat, someone posted that they wanted to have an example of what hybrid programming would entail. Can one of us provide an example?
Yeah, I think hybrid can take on a lot of different meanings, but I think mostly when we're discussing it within our toolkit, we're talking about if you're able to have a smaller group of people in-house, but you want to be able to offer this program to other people. Also providing those kits for them to go home and use it, and then to have it either pre-recorded for them to watch and do on their own time, or have Zoom set up within your program at the library so that they can still participate in a virtual setting.
And then there was just some brief discussions on what hybrid, now that you've explained it, Ashleigh, what hybrid is and what it entails. And also, let's see, there was one other comment. So the Bigelow Library said we've had a lot of those where I guess they've had their patrons come and pick up kits, and then via Zoom, they have a Zoom program and they also make the kits. So yes, take and make, I think they're called take and makes. I'm an academic, so I don't always have the terminology correct, but the take and make kits are absolutely fun. Thank you for posting that.
Yeah, at my library, that's been one of the most popular things. And we're getting a lot of people. The nice thing, and the reason why we wanted to also include hybrid in this toolkit, is that in my library, and I've seen a lot of other libraries say this, is hosting virtual programming has opened the door to so many other patrons who don't necessarily always step foot into the library, and they've never seen them before, and so they don't want to lose that connection with them. So having kind of a hybrid option.
Yeah, and then we encourage you all to share your hybrid programming in that Slack channel too, so so everyone can see what everyone else is doing to get ideas. Yeah, Kate Smith just commented that they're going to continue the take and make because they're so popular, and we'll probably do the same. We're definitely going to continue at the Sacramento Public Library, continuing to do virtual programming because it gets so much play, so much engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here.
I also see that her library is fully open. Oh my goodness, our library still isn't fully open, and even when it opens back up, there's still people that are very leery of returning to the quote unquote normalcy. So we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we just got approval at my library just yesterday to bring back our in-person programming inside, and our community room that we use for that is currently full with all the toys and all the things that we couldn't use for a year, and so we are still kind of dipping our toes in the water with regards to that. And also, I don't want to lose all of our virtual too, that all the patrons who have joined us virtually that I've never seen before. And I have a feeling if we just go fully back to in person and not even offer that, I won't see them again. So I'm trying to keep them along.
That's very considerate. I love it. Joan posted that so many folks can't attend on a specific day and time, and that is absolutely correct. A lot of times I felt like when we were completely in person, even for myself, like I love to, of course, I'm a librarian, but I love to go to library events and, go visit the library. I'm a real library geek in that way. And so it's hard because sometimes, just due to work hours, you can't always attend some great stuff. And it's hard, it's difficult. So it's great that now, there are options.
And I think, Shamika, you mentioned having it kind of an on demand. That's really nice too, because then they can view it at their own convenience.
Yes. So for us, we have child development centers, and traditionally they would bring the students to us. We would do story time, walk them through the library, talk about libraries. Even though it's academic, they still get the gist of being on campus in a library. And the problem, of course, now, our preschoolers aren't coming to visit the library. So we created basically some recordings of story time, us just reading various story time videos. And then we kind of curated some things. So we found some great musical story times that other institutions had created. We found there's drag story time, and there's just so many different story times. And so we tried to curate all of that in a LibGuide, and so have it as a resource for our patrons with preschoolers and those with kids. They can go on anytime and watch a video with their children.
Mm-hmm. And someone mentioned the digital divide, which was a huge topic for us. And then there was another group that was in our same leadership challenge that addressed the digital divide. But that's definitely a time where I would suggest joining our Slack, because as we are opening back up and things are going to a newer normal, we can start discussing, okay, so how do we address the digital divide if we want to keep that hybrid component of our programming?
And our website also discusses things. If you want to continue to do virtual programming, it kind of provides an outline of things like closed captioning that you can hit to ensure that you are reaching all patrons who might have access issues or just want to watch when there's sound in the background, right? So it's good, helpful tips like that.
Exactly, Sasha. I know, I love that you can record in certain things in advance and then fix the closed captioning, because sometimes live captioning is absolutely inaccurate, but there it is. We have 2 minutes, and we definitely have to let you folks out on time so that you can go to your next destination. If anyone has any of my fellow presenters have any last words.
I'm just including, we created an email for our group as a whole. So you can get in touch with us via our Slack page. And then also we have our email that I just put in the chat box. It's postpandemicprogramming@gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.